Hello and welcome to the Comic Conspiracy episode 557 for the week of whatever the hell this is, August 29th, 2022. My name is Ryan Higgins. Who's here this week?
Brock Sigger.
Kevin.
Just two of you. Either one of you go. And Charlie and Lane.
And not Charlie.
And not Charlie. It's Lane.
That's
Hello,
okay.
Lane.
On this podcast, I feel compelled to always say, and Charlie.
Well, you were the last, but now you're...
Well, that, and we always would go into, and special guest.
Yes. Lane could be a special guest this week. I got Lane here.
When we're at the end of the credits and you get all the people who, negotiated for the special...
Starring and special guest. Lane's here because I wanted Lane and Kevin to talk a little bit about Emerald City Comic Con. I like to do a little con coverage, especially now that we're getting back to conventions. So I figure you guys can talk ECCC for a little bit here. Very light comic news. No real comic news this past week. Not really. Bunch more Warner Discovery stuff from the past week. We'll talk about a little bit of that. Sandman episode 4. Can't forget about that. And I was hoping Toby would be here so we could talk about She-Hulk. He's got the invite, so maybe he'll wander in here like Toby does halfway through the podcast. Either way, we could probably talk a little bit of She-Hulk. But I was waiting for Toby specifically, so because he had a lot to say about those first two episodes. But we'll get him in here sometime in the next week or two. I gotta see where he is on Sandman too. Kevin, Lane, why don't you guys start us off? Let's talk some Emerald City. How was it? How did Emerald City go? This is the first. They did like a mini last year, or did they not even do it last year?
Yeah, that was a mini last year in December.
Yeah, it wasn't the real one, right? It was the kind of like Comic-Con did, like the special edition thing.
Yeah.
I'm gonna let Lane start because he was there the whole time. I couldn't handle 2 4-day conventions in less than 1 month from each other. So I only went half the time. I'll let Lane kick it off. I'll fill in afterwards.
Weak. I did 4.
Yeah, Lane, you did Comic-Con and Emerald City, and they're not too far off from each other. And I didn't realize Emerald City did the preview night too. So that's Thursday night's the preview night, right? Not Wednesday.
It's not a preview night. It's just an actual day.
Is it? I thought they did like a preview night thing.
It's a 4-day show.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Shit.
Jeez. You're probably thinking of they used to open Wednesday night for people to get their tickets early.
Do they not do? So they don't do the Wednesday. They don't do a Wednesday night. It's just so it's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I mean, that's not small. That's big. That's a big convention.
Yeah,
so.
And this was 3 weeks after Comic-Con.
Yeah.
And we still have more to come.
Yep.
But yeah, no, he was actually pretty good. Pretty chill. A little different this year because in the during the mini one we had to do the whole COVID check thing, so there's no COVID check this time. So that kind of eliminated that was kind of a weird thing because that was being held in another hotel. So people were getting lost as to where to get it last time. So it was a little easier in terms of they had people directing everybody go, here's the entrance, go that way, go that way, go that way. So that was a lot better this time. They got rid of for the last few years, they've always had metal detectors up for bag check-in as you come in. This year, they had like an automatic detector, and they had people with iPads sitting there, so you just walk straight through.
What did it do? It was just like
you had to spread out, and you just walk through. Basically, it's just doing a quick X-ray, and then it would automatically scan to the iPad to let the guy, like the security guys, are on the iPads.
Okay.
Checking what's going through the X-ray thing or whatever.
Yeah.
And then if anything got triggered, they would hold you to the side.
Huh. Interesting.
So like that used to be the biggest hold-up point, especially for people that would like go to because the autographs are the celebrities are in different areas. So like if you're going to celebrity, back to the con, back to celebrity, back to the con, you'd have to keep going back through that thing all the time. So that always was used a hold-up. So this time there's like you just walk right through. It was really nice.
It's like an airport X-ray screening.
Mm-hmm.
Except you could take your bag with you.
Yep. It's really nice. Beyond that, I guess the biggest thing was there was no actual Funko booth this year. So a lot more tables on the main floor, a lot less people trying to get in the one really, really, really long line. Like
How long
less.
has Funko been doing ECC?
Ever since they moved to Everett, which I think was like 2015 or something, 2016. They had a party at the headquarters, so they still had an event called FunCon, but there was nothing on the show floor. But they did have a panel, so there was something going on. I think if you went to the panel, I think they were giving away like a free pop to everyone. But that's about it. Beyond that, the crowds were pretty slim. I don't know, Kevin, you can attest to that. Like, it was nowhere near as crowded as before, I think.
Yeah, well, also the difference with this, what I always find with Emerald, and I haven't been in a few years, so it was a nice refresher, is that whereas the like the San Diego Convention Center is long, and so to get to one thing or another, you're traversing a great distance either outside through the lobby or across the show floor, whereas Emerald City or the Washington Convention Center is tall, so you have multiple floors. So Artist Alley is its own floor. The show floor of the what you'd call the convention proper is its own floor. And so it's never that crush of people trying to travel one place to another because everybody kind of gets off the escalator on the area where they want to be. So I had a great time on, I can't even quote what day this was. Lane, Friday, maybe. Okay. Well, let's just say Friday. Shopping for comics on the show floor. I could comfortably browse all of these. There was probably a dozen comics dealers. But I could comfortably browse long boxes, back issues without my elbows touching another human being at all. It was wonderful. It was so relaxing and nice. And, it's such a contrast to San Diego in a good way. Now, with that said, this to me was just a con for fun. I had no professional obligations at this show. I had nothing that I had to do. So it was purely a fun, like browsing con. And thus it became an expensive con, because nothing was ever calling me away from the show floor. I was just trapped in there with my wallet on fire by the end of the show. And so it was a good time, though. I thought it was good.
Yeah, they definitely had the talent this time around. And the one thing that was interesting was that they kind of smartly placed all the biggest names all kind of in a circle in the middle of Artist Alley. So you can just kind of branch out and hit each one without having to go too far.
Yeah, Emerald City is a big artist convention, and a lot of comic people, writers, but specifically artists. It's usually known for being one of the biggest, I think, in the country. So,
I mean, they also get a lot of celebrities, and like it is definitely more of a Comic Central con from all the times that I've done it, but like it is a larger small con.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you didn't have DC and Marvel there, but you did have a good publisher presence, like publishers like Mad Cave, Aftershock, like that kind of level publisher. So nothing that's going to have people like filling a Hall H, but it was definitely a comics presence on that show floor, a definite comics presence.
Mm-hmm. And they also have, probably the big thing for them is they have a huge, I guess, non-comic writers group, like all for like your top 20 bestseller, novel writers, sci-fi writers. They have huge contingency of there, and they do a lot of good things for supporting them.
Yeah, there's an area attached to Artist Alley that's, I can't remember now what it's called. Lane, they had a name for it.
It's like Writer's
Block, where it's just an area for signings for like prose authors, like dedicated separate line corral areas, and a bookstore on the floor of Artist Alley that's selling literal books.
Did they get pretty big novelists there too? Because that's Comic-Con, like they're filtered in randomly at certain booths, but it's not. I would say it's not a massive part, if even a small part.
This
of
is a big young adult novelist presence.
Yeah, very big. I'd say they sometimes get big novelists, but I think if I'm not mistaken, the biggest one I think canceled the week before due to sickness for this particular year. Forgetting who it was. It was like a sci-fi writer. But yeah, it was great just being able to walk around.
Yeah.
Meet I hit, like I was telling Kevin, like I had a plan. I hit certain artists in certain order. I got my own stuff signed, and like I was just going in and out, hit the floor, done in about 15 minutes, go all the way back to the hotel, relax for an hour, go back, go in, hit it 15 minutes. I'm done with everything I planned to do, go back. Like it was just so easily set up and convenient this time that it just was a weird, like everything worked out really well.
It was almost too low stress. I felt like something was missing. Like I was like my con nerves are supposed to be on red alert. They were too relaxed and something felt wrong. It was like a workaholic being on vacation. Like it was too relaxing, too low key. But I'm saying that in a good way. I'm just saying after coming right off the heels of San Diego, it was kind of a shock to the system.
I just would love a picture of you guys just like creating a line somewhere randomly for something because that's what cons are supposed to be.
Yeah, like find a square of grass outside the convention center at night.
That's pretty funny. You've been going, Lane. You've been going quite a while, right? The last number of years
For Emerald.
Yeah.
I think I did the last 4.
Yeah, it's on my list. I'd like to go sometime. Just being right up against Comic-Con, it's like, I don't know. That's tough.
Well, it's weird.
But
it's this year because this is still the staggered schedule year.
Yeah.
It's normally April, I think, or March.
March. Yeah, it's normally March.
Oh, that's right. It's normally before. I forgot. Yeah, it kind of kicks off Comic-Con.
Yeah.
Or it kicks off con season.
C2E2 is the first one, then Emerald.
Yeah, I was going to say, I thought C2E2 was before. Yeah, okay.
It's just that this is that year where everything's kind of in the middle because they had everything late. And so it's like the bridge year on the calendar.
Right.
Plus, on top of that, Emerald is usually the week of or the week before WonderCon. So if you're a California base staying, you might be hitting WonderCon.
Do they plan to go back next year, did they say? Or is it just they're going to keep it at this date, or have they said?
I actually didn't see anything posted when we were there.
I don't think they posted anything. I could have sworn they posted the new date, but I didn't look at it.
I think conventions sort of get stuck in those.
It is. No, they did post it as March next year.
Okay, so it's back to...
I sworn they had confirmed it's going back to normal.
Yeah, I think it's the first weekend in March.
It's a quick turnaround, though. But I guess better than skipping a year. People will still go.
Right.
So
yeah. But yeah, all told, it was the most money I've ever spent at 2 days at a convention in my life. So there's that. Not the most money ever at a convention, but normally I'm there for a much longer time. This was definitely like high impact for the time that we were there. And that's not a complaint.
You're setting a bar, Kevin. You're setting a bar.
Shh. You stop enabling it. You're part of the problem.
So that is a question. What did you guys get? I know you guys both went in for some art commissions.
If you're going to get Lane's list, this is going to be a whole bonus episode. Go ahead.
Best of.
No, mostly I went for a lot of autographs. So it's like, these days you have to kind of pay some for the autographs. So it's just mostly like me going to the same people over and over again. We tried to get a commission from Joelle, was the biggest one. But like, she just wasn't taking very many. Like, she pretty much was only going to do like 2 a day. And every time we're always like number 3 because it's just how fast can you get to the table?
Yeah.
Especially when like VIPs
because you didn't start that line.
We tried
the last day, Charlie. My last day, we were there. Yep. We booked our asses to that table and somebody was there like a minute before us.
Yep. So, but it was really great seeing her, talking to her. We got to talk to the her she's not a really rep, but the table helper. She was really really nice. I think we both got a quick remark from Joelle. And then I think other than that, the only other things I really picked up were a quick remark from Terry Dodson, and then I got a nice Psylocke piece from Brian Stelfreeze. Oh,
I saw that one. Yeah,
that
was
turned
great.
out awesome.
Oh, and one more. We did get. I thanks to Kevin because he told me about it the day he left. I was able to get Daniel Warren Johnson on the last day.
Now I know Remark for people that maybe used to go to comic conventions. Remarks are basically what they used to call the old like the con like head sketch.
Yeah,
right.
Except small.
The quick.
Yeah. Those things are not free anymore. Unfortunately, you used to just come out, wander around, and people would do whatever. Yeah, now they're $50, $60,
Or I mean, no,
or less, I guess.
Yeah, or less. It totally depends. Like I got a Paulo Rivera for 20 or
That's not
25,
bad.
something like that.
Yeah.
I think Joel's was 40.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I started a jam cover, which you guys saw, and I picked up a Tommy Lee Edwards commission. I got the Daniel Warren Johnson has a new system where he'll draw you a picture right there while he's sitting there if you catch him while he's sitting at the table. Just a small, like Lane, what size is that?
4x6.
4x6, yeah.
Postcard, yeah.
But he still puts a hell of a lot of work into them. I mean, you think 4x6 and you go like, it's some quick doodle, but no, he probably spends 10 minutes, maybe,
Probably
working on
more
it.
than that, yeah.
15 minutes. And then to announce my retirement from original art collecting, I picked up my first, only, and last comic splash page from Civil War. I had bought it from a guy who lives in Hawaii, and Emerald City's the only continental U.S. show he does every year. So we just arranged to meet at the con and do it there, do the transaction there. So, yeah.
Page from Civil War.
Yeah.
How many New Warriors in it?
Stop fronting. You saw it. The New Warriors don't make a splash page, do they?
Yeah, when they blow up that school, they do.
No, that was Speedball, right?
The New Warriors. Yeah, the 10th version of the shitty team.
Yeah, and then I got a bunch of comics as well. Maybe 6 to 8 comics.
Is there a lot of back issue guys there, like there is at most of the other cons?
There was maybe 10, 12.
Yeah, that's not too many. Yeah,
but they had some deep selections, though. I was really impressed. You'd look at it from the outside and go, "Oh, there's barely any comics." But when you get into those booths, at least the stuff I was looking for, like Bronze Age stuff, there's a good selection of that stuff in there and reasonably priced. Like people actually wanted to move this stuff instead of have to pack it up. Yeah,
nice.
That was a refreshing. Good. Yeah.
Rare.
Yeah, I know. I just don't get it. But yeah, so all in all, thumbs up for me. I think Lane would say the same.
Yep. Definitely got to get you there. Well, everyone here there.
Yeah, I'd like to someday. Yeah, it's on my list.
At
New York,
one day.
Emerald and New York are on my list. So.
Oh man, New York. That's
New York's
big leagues.
New York's more like San Diego.
Yeah. I know.
Insanity level.
Yeah. It's on the list for one day.
One day.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Speaking of
Emerald City.
Did anybody go to SillyCon?
No, I do know what I know at least one person that went. I have not heard how it was. That's our local, what used to be a cool small Comic-Con and has turned into large, expensive, nobody goes, nothing to do, celebrity and like science kind of.
Yeah.
They have like NASA and like other stuff there. It's interesting.
I was almost tempted to start an Expanse like signing because I got that ship model. Thing. So I was like, I just get the Expanse actors to sign the thing. And I was like looking up how much it would cost just to go and how much free signing, and I was like, "Yeah, no, I'm good."
Yeah, it's not cheap. Yeah, I mean any of those celebrity cons are big, but this was who does the. It was Steve Wozniak.
Yes,
I mean, he had nothing to do with it, but
Adam Savage.
Yeah, again, these people have nothing to do with the convention. They're paid money to have their name on the convention, but they have nothing to do with it. I mean, I know people they go, but pictures it just looks like I don't know how this thing is still going. Like nobody's there. And I know the first year it was packed and there was nothing to do. So I just think nobody went back. We went to like one of the little tiny hotel cons here. And that was, whatever. I was barely there, but Tony Harris was there, artist for Starman and a bunch of other stuff. So I got his autograph on my Starman hardcover and talked to him for 10 minutes. And
I almost got off the plane from Emerald and went there.
Oh, really?
Just for him. Just for him.
Yeah, I mean,
but then I was like, I can't do it. I can't do it. So he's going to be at Fan Expo.
Oh, cool. Nice. Yeah, I mean, I paid $10, walked in, went straight to him, walked around for 10 minutes, left. So, yeah, I was there for one thing. I actually did buy some original art when I was there too.
Yes, come to the dark side.
Yeah, well, no, I've already been to the dark side.
Lane needs a new Padawan.
Chris Marinan, who did a lot of art in the 90s. So he actually did some issues of New Warriors, and we're leaving, and I'm like, wait, like you did like the Nova series. Let me rephrase this. He did Nova and other stuff, Wonder Woman and a bunch of other books. I completely forgot he actually did some New Warriors. He did like a couple issues. And he had like one page of original art from one of those issues with the whole team on it. And I'm like, hell yeah. Like, what an unexpected find. But yeah, I mean, it's dealers that are local and it's a 10-minute con. It's not something you spend a day at, let alone 4 days at. So, but I mean, I like those little cons. They're fun. As long as there's one thing to do, it's like, hey, you can go off for the day.
I think it's the price to get in. Like, Silicon is like... The price, is just ridiculous.
Yeah, how much?
How much? I don't remember.
It's expensive. Is it like $80 or something?
Yeah, something. Yeah, I'm looking it up here. The problem also, Silicon has the. You got to remember that
we live in the Silicon Valley,
right? And just SEO, like you can't call something silicon. Well, yeah, because they don't have people up. So yeah, I mean they had Karen Gillan, George Takei, Adam Savage, Ray Park, Christopher Lloyd, Jeffrey Leslie, who was Batwoman. Yeah, Charles Martinet was there, Mario himself. A bunch of other people. Yeah, a bunch of people from your Summer Glau was there. I'm surprised Toby didn't go. But then it's like, yeah, it's a bunch of like.
No, they had like three or four people from the Expanse, and I was like, oh, this would be good.
Right.
But it's like, it's just, it's. Way
Ebass was there. Ebass was there. Look at that. They actually had a couple comic people, not many, but a couple. Yeah, it's just a weird.
I guess my thing is the main draw, and they make it clear that the main draw to that particular con is just celebrities. Like, they get a few things on the floor or whatnot, but primarily what the con is about is celebrities. So they might as well just let you buy the experiences with the celebrities and not charge to get into the con. It is weird.
Well, yeah, con's going to make their money too.
Somebody up here the price was like $50 per daily ticket.
Yeah. Which, I mean, honestly, is not. I mean, that's just what conventions are these days. But there's just nothing to do there. You'd walk in if you're not there. If you're not there for celebrity autographs, don't go. There's just nothing else to do. So, yeah, if Tony Harris wasn't at this little con, I wouldn't have gone because it was the one thing I wanted to do. I knew there was something there because I wasn't going for back issues or anything like that. So that's you're still going to know what you're going for. We're going to talk some. I guess any last Emerald City. Anything before I move on?
No.
Got a bunch of HBO Max, Warner Discovery crap to talk about here.
Well, welcome to the no longer having faith side of the aisle, Ryan.
Yeah. We talked a few weeks ago about what's your belief that the Warner Discovery stuff is all going to go through? It's going to be good on the back end. The HBO Max, is fine. DC Comics is fine. And I was still like, they've said publicly committed to HBO Max, which makes sense. Committed to HBO as a brand can make sense. committed to DC Comics and massive expansions of HBO Max and the DC properties on movies and on HBO. Perfect. All right. This sounds, look, it's unfortunate that a lot of the animation stuff's kind of getting aside. Now, there was actually some reports that the stuff they canceled, despite how critically acclaimed some of it is, was like some of the lowest viewed programming on HBO Max. I won't comment on it because I don't know any of it, but it's probably going to happen anyway. They can't, like we talked to the other week, they're not going to have, endless content forever. That's just not viable with the business model that all streaming services had. So it sounded like that stuff was probably going to get axed at some point anyway. It's unfortunate. It's really unfortunate. So, buy physical media so you own it. Look, BitTorrent exists. Download your shit if you pay for your stuff, but it's going to go away at some point.
But sort of like Infinity Train got pulled, but Infinity Train is still digitally for sale, or at least it was last time I checked, on like Amazon and Apple.
Right.
It just
so
got
it's still
pulled
there
from HBO Max.
Right. And I think you're going to see more of that if it's not, look at Netflix, right? They cancel everything crazy fast. They just cancel that with the Resident Evil show after one season, right? Netflix, we'll talk more about this later, but Netflix's model is ruthless. And it's probably the only way that works, right? If you don't have constant regular viewership and especially, a ton of stuff up front, it's just not going to happen. So it sucks, but, it's not a lot you can really do, I guess. But last week, some news dropped that just completely broke my brain, baffled me, and so now I really question all of this. I really do question how any of this is going to function, because DC Comics, the properties, one of their most important properties, HBO Max, they're going to spend more, not less. They're going to put big budget quality things on there. Okay, what else would fit that than the Bruce Timm, J.J. Abrams, what's his name? Matt Reeves produced, Ed Brubaker and Greg Rucka written Batman, the Caped Crusader, adult Batman animated series inspired sequel cartoon. That feels like the safest of safest bets to be on HBO Max. And yet, it will not be on HBO Max. It's not canceled. I know that was, people misunderstood. Batman Caped Crusader is happening. It's going to happen very soon. The show's been, and they're deep in production. It's not like it's getting canceled. But if a Matt Reeves Batman animated project cannot go forward on HBO Max, then there is no future for animation at HBO. There's no future for animation as part of Warner Brothers, which is just, I don't understand. It's Warner Brothers.
Weren't they the top of the animation?
You can argue it is the most important or the second most important animation studio that's ever existed in the United States. I mean, clearly Disney's reach has expanded greatly, but Warner Brothers is, for decades, was right there. So it's going to. They're said they're getting calls from, Apple TV and Netflix and Amazon. So the show's going to happen. It's not like, there's a bunch of these animated projects that are just going to find homes elsewhere. It's not getting canceled. None of this stuff is getting canceled. But so what? So what's the deal? Is animation just dead at HBO at Warner?
No, they're going to have
the DC animated movies,
the kids streaming app, the DC streaming app. They're going to have 50 bajillion streaming apps that you now have to pay to access.
When anime is the highest it's ever been in the United States, when you have, animation's not just a kids thing. People of all ages watch animated projects now. Simpsons, Family Guy, all those type of shows are massive juggernauts decades into release. Does Zaslav just hate animation? Is that what it is? I don't get it.
Do you really,
this
do you think it's based on that though? Like,
it's all animation. Everything getting scrapped is animation.
Right,
Everything.
Right. But I don't know. I don't know anything about the details, but I'm almost wondering, especially with this project, with the amount of talent involved, this animation is probably one of the most expensive animations in production right now. So, like, the way I'm looking at it is, if you're the head of the company and you're going to get this animation, it's yours no matter what. Even if you give it to someone else, you're going to get it back because it's your property.
Sure.
Wouldn't you want to go out and go, hey, let me find someone who'll pay for half of this?
Yeah, I mean, I understand, but it's not just this, right? So the other projects was Merry Little Batman, which is an animated Batman, I believe just movie. It's like a kids movie with Damian Wayne. The Day the Earth Blew Up, a Looney Tunes movie. Bye Bye Bunny, a Looney Tunes musical. Did I Do That to the Holidays? A Steve Urkel story, a Family Matters animated Steve Urkel special, and the Animated World of Gumball movie. None of those are big budget. None of those. Batman is obviously, but the rest of those, like Amazing World of Gumball, they make that thing for $5. Like, these are not big budget productions.
Aren't they using that art AI program to make that show anyway?
Oh, Jesus Christ, please. No. So I don't get it.
Well, I mean,
I just don't get it.
They have budget cuts, right? And they've been canceling stuff. So it seems smart to me if you just want to start shopping things around to cut your budget down without having to lay off people.
But isn't the whole idea, it's your own service? They said, we're going to expand out HBO Max. We're going to expand out
it with Discovery content.
They specifically said we're going to greatly expand HBO Max's like reach and content on there. They're not scrapping Game of Thrones, right? They're not shopping that around. They're not shopping any of that stuff around. It's all animation. It's got to be. I mean, that's the key part here for all of it.
Maybe they're tanking the animation department. They're done.
Right. I don't get it.
It's the end of the animation department at Warner Brothers.
And if
they're trying to sell it off to Disney.
Maybe you have to look at the numbers. Like, maybe the numbers for a new animation just aren't there, but having the ability to retain forever rights on an animation keeps people on the service.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible, right? So animation has always been subsidized, in like the modern day by licensing and toy rights and all that stuff, right? There was specifically from the DC side, because that's closer to what I follow. The Green Lantern cartoon was dead before it even aired because the Green Lantern movie bombed. So any toy deals for the line died before the show even had one episode aired. So it was just done, right? Young Justice died because they botched the action figure line. And so the toys never sold. They barely came out. They never sold. And so they killed the show because of it, right? This is a common problem where licensing is how these things are usually funded because, it makes sense.
To me, honestly, this doesn't seem that out of character for Warner. Even prior to the thing, like, there's a reason why, like, Supergirl was on another network first and then ended up on the CW. And you had Gotham on Fox, and you had
Pennyworth
on
the origin of Batman's butler. Get it right.
But like, they have always had some stuff in house, but were more than willing to sell their property to other networks and whatnot because it was lucrative that way.
Sure.
So I think in general, especially to Lane's point, if all the reports on money being a very big factor right now, being able to shop this around and get some money basically back into it allows them to do more stuff.
So how much are
Like
those
that,
funeral
that's
screenings
the
of
whole
Batgirl
thing that
going
I don't
for?
understand about like the HBO Max and the merger and all that stuff is all these reports around not being able to afford to release the stuff they've done suggest
Yeah,
they need more cash right now.
yeah. So that's the. How can you say we're going to sink more money into HBO Max and then not have money to promote your films, not have money to pay for the animation that's already in house? Wouldn't, if all you're going to do is license the stuff out, then HBO Max is dead, right? That's fine if that's what you want to do. If you want to, like, yeah, we're going to make everything, and Warner will not release anything, Warner Discovery, but we're going to put it on Netflix and Showtime and HBO, and Cartoon Network
I
is them.
mean,
It's
HBO, even ever since the launch of HBO Max, they have never kept, like, this is one of the things that I found fascinating about HBO Max versus like Disney and that stuff. Is Disney launched their own streaming service and pretty much said, we want to keep all our stuff in house. We're not renewing all these contracts. As soon as they run out, it's all going on Disney Plus or our own services, period.
mhm.
If you look at what Warner has done, when they're pulling stuff, it doesn't mean that it's not available anywhere. It typically means that, like, oh, well, Harry Potter's not on HBO Max because it's on Peacock this month or Hulu this
Right,
month, or
right.
they have constantly been not operating on the model that we need all our content on our service at all times.
And I mean, I guess that's fine, but then HBO Max is done, right?
I mean, it depends on how you look at it. Up until recently, because
That's
I
the point of
finally
it.
canceled HBO Max, but they kept me there between the new movies and series and that kind of stuff. But that doesn't mean that they didn't have stuff on CW that I'd want to watch, and they didn't
Mhm.
have other, like, it's really easy to sort of try and focus so much on HBO Max because what they did is they basically said, we'll have our HBO catalog and then some. But it's not like they made all the Cartoon Network stuff on there all the time. Or like Warner had a very far reach that was not on their quote unquote premium streaming service.
Yeah, it's just, man, I don't know. I think if you want to draw, that Batman show is one of them.
Oh, and
And
I
so,
completely agree with you that it is a painful thing for them to have to do, but if you're looking for what things do we have in development that we can probably generate a decent amount of cash on to get out of some of the problems they seem to be having, what is more marketable than a Batman show to try and
mhm.
generate cash?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, with your point to the DC or the Disney getting, like letting all the contracts expire and kind of getting everything under their own umbrella. They do that, they get everything there, they have it on Disney Plus for a while, then they vault it, right? But then at that point,
But
they
have they
can
actually been vaulting it? Like,
no,
well,
No, not on
they're
Disney
letting
Plus.
some time pass. They're not just like instantaneously doing this, right? They're letting things sit so that people get comfortable, and then they say, "Oh, this stuff's going away." What? It's going away, but they could easily just throw it in the vault for about a year or so, and then Amazon comes around, or Apple comes around, or Netflix comes around and says, "Oh, do you mind letting us use that thing in the vault?" And so they just sell it to them for a period of time, and then it's on a different streaming service, right? But they get money for it, right?
But that's what I'm saying. That's what HBO Max is essentially doing today prior to the. Not
Yeah.
on everything, mind you. I'm definitely not saying they're doing it on everything.
No, they're testing the waters with a department that they think that it'll work
Oh,
with.
I don't think it's even that. I think they just look at it as though, even though the Harry Potter movies would be a draw if it was exclusive all the time to HBO Max, but it's more profitable to have them on other streaming services and just cycle through to HBO Max part of the time. Like, I fully believe it just has to do with the fact that they don't want to walk away from the money that they get for having the old Batman movies on some of the streaming services and the Harry Potters on some of the like, that's all revenue they basically are deciding they would rather generate from the contracts to other streaming services than make it exclusive to HBO Max, because they don't think that that will draw enough people directly to say that they need all their content on their service, period.
Well, that does not bode well for the future of HBO Max.
Yeah, because ever since I've gotten
That's the point.
It's like,
Well, I guess
this is
what I'm saying is this is what they've been doing all along, and we would have said the future looks bright for HBO Max 3 months ago.
But saying we are going to dump a ton of money into HBO Max and expand it, and then immediately cut what would be one of your biggest shows, seems kind of weird. That's all I'm saying.
I would.
That it was going to be on HBO Max.
No,
it was going to
I'm
be
not,
on HBO Max.
I'm not. To me, that is the biggest draw for me. I do not know that it's the biggest draw for the bulk of their audience.
Well, this actually goes into the next story, because Matt Reeves did sign a deal with Warner Brothers for a first look deal, multi-year deal. So everything that he wants to do, Warner gets a first look at. Still in production on the Penguin show. There's an Arkham Asylum show in some level of talks. Batman 2 is official and will come out at some point in the next couple of years. So Batman is big, right? It is clearly the biggest point of DC, the biggest point of one of their biggest franchises.
Batman is California.
In HBO Max. To me, I think a new Batman animated series is a significant draw to a service.
See, I hate playing the devil's advocate on this just because you know how much I love Batman the animated series. But I would love to know the comparison between like the Harley Quinn show and the Flight Attendant in terms of viewership.
As far as I understand, Harley's a big hit. I mean, I don't know that it's the same, but Harley, there is talk of Titans and Doom Patrol maybe not sticking around, but Harley sticking around because it's a big hit.
As I said, I would just be curious to have the Harley Quinn show is the closest thing I could think of as a comparison in terms of viewership.
Well, it's also
yeah, and I don't know that it's I don't know that it's fair to compare an animated series to a live action series, but
yeah,
if you're killing animation entirely,
when you're talking about the biggest draw to the service, you have to compare it to the other content on the service.
A big draw to the service. You can't have 3 shows. You need shows of all levels. This is a problem. If all you're doing is, well, we're only going to have Game of Thrones, well, then you do not have a service that anyone's going to subscribe to, because a small amount of people will subscribe for that one thing, exclusive, and that's it, right? You need, there's a lot of family drama stuff, animated stuff. Yeah, there is reports of they're laying off a lot of the women and people of color, and a lot of those shows are getting axed, and that would be the same thing where you're even though some of those might not be the biggest shows, if all you're doing is the biggest things, you're gonna just lose people over time, because there's only so much.
Didn't their market
there's only so many people.
Drop?
Well, there's only so many people that are going to be into this, and there's only so many people. If the show sucks, it's over, right? There are people that don't watch Game of Thrones. Probably shocking news to people at HBO, but there are people that don't like it. So you need to draw people there for other reasons. This has been my argument to DC for a while, is that you can't just be Batman, guys. Yeah, it might sell. An average Batman book might sell better than an average Superman book, or an average Doom Patrol book, or an average Green Lantern book. But you need the expanded audience to draw more people in that want more content, that want more products. It's just something different, right? There are some people that are only there for one character or 2 characters. There are some people that want different types of books. There are some people that want different types of products. And so if all you're doing is the biggest, this is the problem Hollywood's having now with movies. Nobody goes to the movies anymore, because everyone goes to the Marvel movie week 1, and then that's it, right? Everything else tanks. There's no mid-level stuff. There's no low-level stuff. There's no art films or indie films that get released in theaters. If it's not a billion-dollar movie, it doesn't happen, and you're killing your industry because of that. It's every level of Warner is this problem right now. So you need mid-tier stuff. You just have to, because you're gonna lose your audience eventually if you're not giving them varied content.
Well, I think I mean, to use an analogy that's a little old, but it's like going to the rental store and the only thing you have is a big blockbuster on the wall. It's big blockbuster after big blockbuster after big blockbuster. You'll only be there for a minute, and you'll get through most of the content very quickly. Whereas when we used to go to the rental stores, there was the movies that were straight to video, or something that maybe wasn't as big but like became a cult following on VHS or DVD because it was, more people just saw it and went, oh, what is this, right?
Yeah, look at every cult movie from the 80s and 90s that has become a massive franchise of some sort. Look at Nightmare Before Christmas with Disney. The merchandising on that alone has paid for that movie 1,000 times over, right?
Well, that's why
it was not.
That's why Batman and Harley are succeeding, is because the merchandise pays for those astronomically. But the Doom Patrol merch and the Titans merch just doesn't.
Well, there is none for that.
That's the other problem too. But
the subscription services, is what's paying for those. I think you just need varied types of media to draw the largest crowd. You're getting some people that want the schlocky, reality stuff. You're going to want some people that want only the big budget superhero and action movies. You're going to want people that want animation. You're going to want people that want, mid-tier dramas. People like different things. If all you're doing is the biggest, that's not going to work in the long run.
Well, it's funny because
every project can't be a $1 billion risk.
Well, that's Lord of the Rings, right? Lord of the Rings is setting a new standard at $1 billion.
The show, I think it's $300 million for the first season. I think it's $300 million for the first season, but that's Amazon can just throw money. They don't need it, right? But most people can't do that. So, yeah, I don't know. I understand that this may not be their largest problem, but it is yet another thing cutting down the varied things on HBO Max that are going to make it so people are not interested. Just one more thing to this giant list of stuff that people are going to be frustrated about. But there's more. There's even more. It's going to be weeks and weeks and weeks of this. Aquaman, which is supposed to be out March 17th, 2023, has been moved back to December 25th, 2023, Christmas opening day for Aquaman. Shazam, which is supposed to be coming out, the sequel is supposed to be coming out this December, right up against Avatar. This makes a little more sense. I think everyone saw this coming. Has been moved to March 17th, 2023. So although Black Adam's right around the corner, a longer wait now for Shazam. And that's not too surprising. I kind of get maybe wanting to move Shazam away from that. I don't think Avatar is going to be the biggest and best. I expect that movie will do
Avatar
fine.
Too? Huh? What?
It'll do fine. It's not going to be like a $2 billion movie.
I'm not going to watch it.
No, fuck no. I'm going to be following the box office on this very closely. So it makes sense to move it to a less busy date. That's fine. But a lot of talk of them doing some overhaul to Batman, and that Ben Affleck is going to be back. They're reshooting a bunch of stuff. So sounds like, whatever the plan was for the DC Universe movies going forward, it is now being changed pretty significantly. which should not be too much of a surprise. You know,
Ryan, just on the topic you just mentioned 30 seconds ago, I just want to put it out there. If anybody would like to get in on some gambling action on the betting against James Cameron pool, I'm happy to take the other side of that. Anybody wants to step up with some
what's
cash?
your number
For Avatar 2? You mean talking about box office?
So Avatar 1 did $2.847 billion. What does Avatar 2 do? Like, let's say, opening month. Let's say first 4 weeks.
This is tough because, like, dude has had the number one grossing movie of all time twice in 2 different decades. No one's ever done that. He's never had a bomb. Ever. And so people are like, nobody cares about Avatar anymore. This is going to bomb. Nobody's going to go see it. I'm just saying, never bet against this guy. Haven't we learned that?
What's a bomb? What's a bomb for this? That's my question.
Under 100
opening weekend. 100 million opening weekend.
What did you say? Didn't you say first month?
What? No, like what is a bomb?
If it makes 100 million in 1 month, I wouldn't. I wouldn't call that a.
No, it'll make 100 million opening weekend.
Yeah.
No, I'm saying what do you consider a bomb? Because anything short of 2 billion is a bomb for Disney.
Less than Avatar 1.
Oh, there's no way. They think this is there's 5 of these fucking things planned. They think this is coming in at $2 billion.
I hate guessing box office numbers. I'm just saying, like, I just at this point, if I was running a Hollywood stock exchange and anybody wanted to offer short action against Cameron, I'd take that money 7 days a week.
So what? Give me some numbers. What's your opening weekend? What's your out of theater number? Because I think it makes 100 million opening weekend. Absolutely, sure. It doesn't make 250. It's not hitting Star Wars numbers. No way in hell.
Triple digit opening weekend.
But I think 100 million. I think 100 million is a bomb.
Opening.
I think that's not. Yeah, I think they think it's going to do Star Wars numbers.
I don't.
That's what they're lining it up for. That's what there's no way that they think this is making 100 million. 100 million is a flop. If this makes 100 million, it's a flop. After this many years, after this long, I'm calling 120 and 700.
700 as your total.
700 million in its theatrical run. I think it is a colossal failure. That is my call.
All right, well, let's put a Starbucks on it then.
120 and 700. 120 and 700.
So I'm going to say this breaks $1 billion. It will not hit Avatar 1, but Top Gun has opened the door now for this kind of big spectacle movie making.
I think there is a chance at some significant overseas numbers, but I think it's going to underperform here, and I think it's not going to. With very good international numbers, I could see it breaking $1 billion, but
Ryan,
I think it taps out here at like 350 maybe.
I think you underestimate how dumb people are.
Oh no, I know how dumb people are.
I think you underestimate how many people will go see
No. I'm calling 120 and 7.
Okay,
120 and 700. That's my call.
I'm calling the over on your total. So you're saying 700. I'm taking the over on that. And I'll take the over on the opening also. So you can win 2 Starbucks off.
120 domestic. 120 domestic. I think it's going to do very good opening weekend. Yes. I think people will go see it, but I think you're going to see that MCU drop and it's going to completely vanish. I think people aren't going to see it. I think it won't stick around. I think reviews will be terrible, and I think people won't stick around. And it'll pull what the last handful of MCU movies are with 70-80% drops within the first 2 weeks, and it's out of theater by February.
Okay.
I mean, opening weekend.
So this is one of those interesting ones, just because, in general, the quality of the movie, I agree with Ryan. I don't think the movie will be in a form that I think people are necessarily going to go nuts for. But just like the first one kind of pioneered that whole 3D aspect that kind of changed theaters for how long after it? I don't know. I don't know that if there's anybody who could deliver a spectacle that will get people in the theaters just because of how impressed they are with the visuals or sort of the technical aspect of what it took to make the movie, it would be Cameron. Like
It's nothing now. It's nothing now.
Well,
Anyone can do it.
Here's the thing that I'm curious about. Like, I'm really curious, and I've never looked up the official numbers, but I know tons of people who saw Avatar in the theaters. Obviously, I don't know anybody who actually owns the movie at home, and I've always found that kind of interesting because that means that even though people went to go see it over and over in the theaters, it was specifically for that theatrical experience.
Yeah, because I mean, the original Avatar introduced 3D, right, and turned it into a movie trend for a few years, right? So it was.
But nobody
new
who
technology.
did 3D ever could touch Avatar's 3D.
No, and that's the thing is like it was kind of this nuance, like, hey, look at the pretty new thing. But what about Avatar 2 is going to be, hey, look at the pretty new thing, right?
Well, what I'm curious about is specifically what made Avatar 1 work with the pretty new thing was the fact that they spent how long making it?
Yeah.
How long developing the technology to make it deliver what it wanted to? And I hate, like with a passion, what that did as all the movie studios went gaga for how can we do 3D very slap on there, cheap, etc., because nobody wanted to spend the time and money and effort it would take to do what he did with Avatar.
Yeah.
Now, mind you, Avatar 2, he's at least taken the time to do it again, and knowing him, there's going to be additional pushes in technology and whatnot that he has to get his vision across again.
Yeah, but I mean, are people?
I'm not
really
willing to bet that he
entertaining?
doesn't have some ace in the hole that's going to make people stand up and take notice to, again, a shift in what makes the movie-going experience unique compared to what it is today.
Sorry, did I drag us into Geekbox territory?
No.
My bad.
No,
My bad.
I love talking shit about Avatar.
I'll take that. I'll take that bet. I'll take that bet with you. I'm just saying, like, as somebody who went to Titanic on opening weekend and had sat in a 1/4 full theater, and 3 weeks later could not get in because it was sold out, I will never doubt this guy. All of the haters. I'm not saying you're a hater. I'm saying all of the haters.
100% a hater.
All of the who wants to see that movie? Who wants to see this? Who cares about this? And then he comes through again. If I was running a studio and he came to me with an idea, I'd hand him a blank check. Say, spend whatever you want.
And I love that he would bankrupt your studio until that movie came out.
Yeah, 20 years later, you get a movie.
Charlie, we'd be making like kitchen sink dramas until Cameron was ready.
Well, don't forget, he also makes side money, sort of, because technically he invented those 3D cameras, so he does get portions of all the 3D technology that was created to make those films and anyone else using it. So there are benefits to being the pioneer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the same way Lucas made how much money off all the audio and, like, yeah, no, there is absolute benefits to having a vision for what you need technology to do.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about a movie that's not going to make $2.8 billion in the movie theater, and that's Batgirl, because it got axed. But we did show, apparently. People have seen it. It got what was called a funeral screening at the WB lot. So people that worked on the movie have seen the finished project or what was finished with it.
Look at all your hard work that we're not going to show people. Like, why? So it's just a still of a middle finger. Like, it's a middle finger on loop for like 2 hours.
So it's there. People have seen it. I'm sure at some point we'll hear more about it. I think a lot of this has to do with Batman. I think the Keaton Batman's getting cut from all these movies. I think they just said there's no reason to have this other world multiverse Batman. Cut him, put Affleck in, just redo everything with Affleck. because that's the character. He's back for all the stuff. So I just assume that's what's going on, which is unfortunate. I thought the idea of like a multiverse Michael Keaton would be kind of neat, but
You really
that's not
think
happening.
they're saying there's no point to doing it after No Way Home?
Yeah, like
Yeah, those characters aren't. I mean, those guys aren't sticking around, right? I mean, I don't think they're saying, no, but I maybe he'll be in Flash still, but it's just a one-off and that's it. I don't think you're going to see Keaton show up in all these movies. I think I'm not. That's
Oh
all,
no, I
we already
agree.
know that
You may
with
not
Aquaman,
see
right?
him. I agree. You will not see him show up in a huge amount of things.
I don't think he's going to be in anything. They scrubbed him from Aquaman. They canceled Batgirl.
Well,
That's what he was going to be in.
I don't remember them announcing he would actually be in Aquaman.
Yeah, that's why they reshot all the scenes with Ben Affleck. So, because they redid all, this is the report that they redid all his scenes with Affleck. It's because they're just not going to deal with
maybe
the
Batman's
multiverse
going to be
stuff.
the Hecate, and so they'll
Huh?
use Robert and then
Oh.
Michael and then Ben,
Yes.
and they'll move around and like one of them will stay the line every time.
I think jumping into multiverse stuff is stupid. I think it's the biggest. Like, it's cool as a comic guy because we know this stuff, but you're not seeing this in any of the Marvel stuff.
You just had Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness,
right? But that's it, right? I mean,
well, you also had it from No Way Home.
Yeah, can confine to that one movie that's not affecting anything else. It's not like Tobey Maguire showing up in every Marvel movie, right? Yet. I think they're erring on the side of caution, and I don't think and they shouldn't just straight up copy Marvel, even though I mean DC kind of was doing it first, but I just think this it would probably make more sense to just be like, yeah, we got the one guy, we're gonna bring him back, just keep him, and he'll be Batman.
I honestly find this somewhat fascinating, just because I assume the reason why we started to see a lot of the Keaton in this was all the reports that pretty much said Affleck was done. He had no interest in doing anything. So I could see you being right, just because he softened on his position and they went, oh, well, then we can change our plans.
Maybe J-Lo told him she would like to see him do it.
I don't know.
The bat suit.
I don't know what changed. I mean, they basically said that Keaton was going to be, Nick Fury, right? But if they're not going to do the multiverse stuff, if that Supergirl thing is dead or whatever, if you're not going to do it, again, Flash can have his multiverse story. That's cool. Can have his crisis, but it's just the rest of the movies won't acknowledge it. So I don't know. We'll see. Maybe it'll all be in there, and it's just, and maybe they're both running around. Maybe it's Keaton and Affleck both running around. I'd be fine too, I guess. But it just seems like he's getting scrubbed from all these movies. So, we shall find out.
I mean, it's also possible that they're hedging their bets, just because, as much as they have not scrapped the Flash movie at this point, I'm sure they're trying to figure out, okay, does any of this make sense if we decide to scrap the Flash movie?
Exactly. And for one of our final topics of the night, the Flash movie, Ezra Miller apparently dragged in before the Grand Council and bent the knee. And now we're going to have Ezra Miller as the Flash for however long. It sounds like they drug him in, and everything
I've read suggests, yes, he went in to talk to execs. Nothing has come out saying the execs reacted this way to it. Like, I haven't seen a report one way or another, other than a acknowledgement that Ezra Miller went in to meet with them last week.
Yeah, they reportedly apologized for bringing negative attention to the project and the company as a whole, and that they will be, making some sort of statement in the near future. Probably some, there's reports of Ezra going into therapy or seeking treatment of some mental health treatment for his arrests and other legal issues. So, yeah, okay. Because you can't do this. You've got to be on board. You can't be doing tours. You can't be doing promotion if you're out there getting arrested the night before the promotion, right? You're not shipping someone with a arrest warrant to other countries. They're fleeing. They have an active arrest warrant in Vermont, and they're fleeing to England or China or Mexico or something. Like, I don't look great. So, yeah. I mean, there's nobody. Ezra Miller's all right. Like, if they're not the Flash, that's fine. Of all the characters, they're the one that I could get rid of, and I would be totally fine with.
He's not your Barry Allen.
No. They're just. I mean, Barry Allen as presented within the Justice League movies, that's not Barry Allen, right? Everyone else is pretty. Aquaman's different, but I still see Aquaman there. Flash is like, I don't know. We'll see how it is in the movie, but yeah. Scrapping the Flash movie is obviously the last resort. I can't imagine it'll happen short of Miller fucking shooting someone, like murdering someone in the streets.
Maybe Miller's been Thrawn the whole time.
This is what we've said, right? It's It's this race to do this in the back half of the. And final before we'll talk some Sandman here in a second. Final before we move on. If there was a search, there seemed to be a search going on for DC's version of Kevin Feige, and obviously we've had various people in charge of.
It's Zack Snyder.
Well, we've had
that's what everybody wants.
DC Films with Jeff Johns. There's been various people in the head seat of DC Films and the DC properties, and Walter Hamada obviously is the current president, who, for all intents and purposes, has done a phenomenal job. I think he's just been totally effed by the Snyder Cut people.
By the bot.
Any hate going out is not on his shoulders. The Batman's great, Joker's great, Shazam was good, right? So all the movies, Aquaman was a juggernaut, right? So all these movies have been good under Hamada. I just new people coming in, so we're going to change the ship. Dan Lin, who's a producer, is going to be taking over the DC Films. Worked on It, which obviously were big successes for Warner Brothers, and the Lego movies, which are, again, very well loved and very, very big films for Warner. And worked on the Sherlock Holmes movies, produced Sherlock Holmes movies. I never saw those, but I heard they were pretty fun. So
those Robert Downey ones?
Yeah. I also produced the live-action remake of Aladdin, which I know some people didn't really care for, but was a humongous hit. So those are, this guy's got the chops, and apparently a very big DC Comics fan. Not apparently like, yeah, sure, I saw the Batman movie once. Like, no, like legitimately, he's apparently a big fan of the properties. So that's always helpful. Some people in the production role and CEO roles, these companies really aren't and don't know anything about them, which is fine as long as you're not the ones making, creative decisions on them. So we shall see if, fucking fourth time's a charm here. See if anyone can actually,
Yeah, it's okay.
I don't know.
Attach Batman to the title of whatever, and we're good to go, right?
That's the plan so far. We'll see if they're able to, we'll see if they're able to do anything non-Batman related.
Boycotting Batman movies. Why are you boycotting Batman? Because he's everywhere.
They love that Batman. So yeah, another busy week for Warner Discovery. It'll be interesting the next few weeks. If we finally, maybe it's over. Some sort of normalization is now happening. We'll see. Hopefully we've got to the point where where
No, they're gonna keep
new.
They're gonna keep going. Look, House of Dragon, axe shit over here. Look, House of Dragon, axe shit over here.
Sure. Stuff will still be canceled. Stuff will still be moved around. Despite what plenty of people that make frog-based comic books would say, it's crickets from DC Comics itself. There's been nothing at all. No change in leadership. Jim Lee's not stepping down. No change of editorial.
They're moving down the list. Remember when we had the last merger, DC wasn't really hit until later, and then when it was hit, it was like, oh dear God, what the hell are you doing?
My guys at DC have basically said since those layoffs, they really can't go much lower. They're I don't want to say skeleton crew, but
America finds a way.
They have a very small crew, so it'd be tough. It'd be tough to cut too many people, but. Yeah, it's no Jim Lee's still there, despite rumors. So no change yet. And look, Crusader just stepped down, right? If Jim Lee did step down as CCO, he's been there for a while, so that's not even that surprising. I can't imagine him leaving DC Comics and Warner Brothers, but he has been there for 20 plus years. When did he sell Wildstorm, Lane? 2000? Right?
Yeah, around 2000, I think.
2000, 2001. So he's been there in various executive roles for 20 years. That is a long time. I would be surprised if he stepped down or left, but I guess it wouldn't be the most shocking thing. And this would kind of be the time with a massive new change in leadership. But I think he's still
you hold out
very important.
You hold out because you're one of the iconic DC people, right?
I don't know that
you need to pay me more or I'm leaving.
I don't know that there's someone immediate within DC. Maybe someone in editorial, but as a CCO position, I don't know who would take that. Obviously, it wouldn't be, Didio's gone. I can't imagine any of the current editorial heads would take that role. It wouldn't be Jeff Johns. I don't think they would. Maybe would any of the TV guys step in? Would Guggenheim or David Goyer or any of those guys? Maybe. I just don't know if that's a.
But I think Goyer likes his flexibility.
Those guys are all Hollywood. I think that's a downgrade for them being chief creative officer of DC Comics. That's a side grade at best, if not a straight downgrade. They're producers and executive producers. I don't think that's their position. So I don't know who at DC would take that job. Or sure, it could be anyone, I guess, but I don't think there's an obvious person. There's no creative at DC that would take it that's in any sort of leadership position. Not that I can. I don't know if anyone, Kevin, if you've got it. I have no. Yeah, I think they'd be looking at resumes. I just don't have a name. Right?
Do you think they'd reach across the aisle to some other company, like try and maybe woo back Karen Berger?
No, the thing with Jim Lee, right? The reason him and Quesada were so perfect for the position was because they were both creators, but had gone even beyond that. So they were the artists. They had done some level of, not I don't say writing, but some they were more than just a guy that did art. They ran their own companies. They had executive leadership abilities past just being a freelance artist, right? Former artist, I don't know that do you pull someone in that hasn't been with a company in 10 years, 20 years? Right? You're not getting Didio, that's for sure. I don't have a name. I really don't. And the same with Marvel. Who took over as Marvel CCO? Was it? I don't even know. I don't even know who took over. Oh,
Wasn't the publisher?
well, no, Kevin Feige took over as Marvel's CCO, right? Because Quesada moved over, Feige took over for all of Marvel, right? For like Marvel Entertainment. So what was Quesada when he left? He was CCO, but he left. I remember what position was in. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I don't know if there's an answer. I would be very surprised if Jim Lee... Okay, let me put it this way. I'd be very surprised if Jim Lee was fired or forced to leave. If he wants to leave, that's one thing. But I do not imagine they would get rid of him.
You don't think
But that's just me.
Marie Javins would move up?
She's only been EIC for 2 years, 2.5 years, 2 years. I just don't see
Plus,
it.
you have to keep in mind I don't want to say a hard line. There's a line between somebody like Marie and Karen Berger, who are interested and experienced in being creatives and running the creatives, not the business. And I'm not saying they couldn't do it. I'm saying that may not be where everybody's interest is. Where we from the outside might go, oh, that would be an awesome promotion. You could be the CCO. Yeah, that awesome promotion comes with awesome headaches that you're not going to be dealing with when your main thing is the books, the artists, the writers.
Are you ready? McFarlane takes over.
Well, I mean...
Well, Ryan has a better... somebody who's volunteered many times.
Well, while I would not want that, he would be the right type of person because he has corporate leadership history. Right. Jim Lee and Quesada, it worked for them because Quesada owned what was his company? Event
Comics, wasn't it? Because
is that what it was?
Yeah,
it was Event, right? So he had some level of
Event. Jim had the Wildstorm stuff.
Obviously, Wildstorm, right? And then had leadership positions within the company that was above editorial. Yeah. So, yeah, going straight from editor, even at DC, Dan Didio worked on the comics. Jim Lee worked with.
I got it. You ready?
Outside the comics, he worked with the artists. He worked on licensing, so he was already sort of in that field.
You ready? Discovery brings over some random person from like ESPN.
If they're a big comic fan, sure. I mean, that's the problem, right? If it's a random person, they've got to know the product. They've got to know the company. They've got to know the material.
And get somebody from Shark Tank.
If they're a big comic book fan, they've just got to know the product, right? That's the biggest concern. It's knowing both the business and the characters and the worlds. And yeah, it's not as easy. It's just like dunking any random mid-level executive over there. That's not what this stuff is. This is about CCOs for the comic industry side of it as well. I'm sure it's very similar to a lot of companies, but I mean, I know this stuff. It's about trying to line up your products so there's a consistent nature between various groups and licensing and marketing and publishing and video games and you're trying to have this cohesive. You're the pinpoint that goes out to every other company that's dealing both internally and externally, and it is way bigger than being like
So, quick question:
all kidding aside. But Brock, all kidding aside, and I know it's just guys BSing on a podcast, of all of the suggestions and the names, McFarlane is the best of everybody who's come up in this conversation.
Yeah, because this is exactly what he already does.
He's the perfect
I don't know that I would want McFarlane, but he is the type of person that makes sense.
Of the names that have been mentioned in this conversation, he is the best of those names for that job.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to suggest, I know they're not big names, but the ex-Wildstormers, John Nee and Scott Dumbier.
I mean, I think they're just at lower levels. I don't know that they've had, massive. Oh, and they've been disconnected from the company for so long. That'd be my.
No, Nee's been helping out with Wildstorm even when he was with DC. He moved over.
Yeah. But they haven't been with Warner and with DC in years, right?
I think they're still with them in some. I think Knee's still there, but I think
Is he?
Dunbeer's out.
IDW.
Yeah.
But
I mean, Dunbeer does also a lot of the same stuff at IDW.
Yeah.
So that's why, like, they have the skill set. It's just they don't have the recognition.
Yeah. I Jim Lee's a name because we know him. All right. I'm sure the CCO in most companies, nobody knows who they are. But we're in an entertainment industry, so it's a little bit different for us. Yeah. I don't know. We'll see.
Don't you want Liefeld in front?
He's offered himself up many times.
and look,
you could sell DC to that group of guys that took Youngblood. The
reason, if you on paper look at Liefeld and look at McFarlane, what is the difference? Liefeld is this is not like a dunk on Liefeld thing. I'm just to really compare those two. McFarlane has had one company, incredible success with a small number, but prominent number of products, animation, live action movies of some success, middle success, but at least there's knowledge there. Extreme success in marketing, licensing, especially the toy industry, which is obviously a big part of DC Comics. Liefeld has had failed company after failed company after failed company after failed company with almost nothing that has actually succeeded as far as licensing, long-term sustainability, marketing of internal products, continued growth and addition of new products in his line, right? It's the reason why Liefeld would anything else about the guy, right? It just wouldn't work because he does not have the track record for a position like this at a company like this.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah. McFarlane, for whatever you think of the guy, does have the track record and does have the ability. So I would not personally care for that. Maybe he'd do a good job. I don't know, but
I don't think you can drag him away from his own thing.
No, but he would have the ability.
Yeah. What about other image founder? What about Valentina or?
I mean, I think for most of those guys, there's just not enough. I think they'd hire internal. I just don't see that they'd go outside of DC and Warner. They'd bring someone from Warner over, or they'd bring someone that's worked with them. Again, Jeff Johns, the CCO, was a great choice in theory. And same with him at DC Films. He knows the characters, but it's a question of did he have enough knowledge in the actual responsibilities needed for him? Now that he's run his own production company for many years, maybe he does. Maybe he does have that knowledge now and would work if he came back. I don't know. Tough to tell. Let's talk about some Sandman. We'll talk about She-Hulk too. After, if you guys want to talk a few minutes, I was really hoping Toby was going to be on talking about She-Hulk. We can maybe wait and see if he's going to be on next week. I don't want to not talk about She-Hulk. Toby really wanted to talk about She-Hulk. Sandman, episode 4.
Let's do it.
Let's go to hell.
I'm excited for this one.
It's a good episode. Man, I'm so happy I'm watching this weekly because I look forward to it so incredibly much every week. I'm so happy I did this and didn't just burn through it. I really am. I watched an interview with Neil Gaiman on Rolling Stone. He did like an hour-long video podcast with them. And it kind of one or two very minor things get sort of spoiled for me, but nothing major, just things that show up. And, I'm like, well, now I know to look out for that. But
spoiling a story you've read numerous times.
Well, one of the things he said in one of these interviews I read recently, and especially about this episode, was the death, or in this case, the not death of what's her name? The lady driving the car with Dr. Destiny. In the comic, he kills her. What's her name? I can't remember her name. I'll look it up.
Is it Margaret? Marjorie?
It's something like that. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah,
you know what I'm talking about.
She has the dog.
Rosemary. Yeah. So, in the comics, he kills her, right? In this, he doesn't. Neil Gaiman said, yeah, this is one of these decisions. And when we went to go make the show, we wanted to, things read differently in live action. And we wanted to do something that, was, hey, a little bit of a surprise, even for the people that have memorized the comics, because you're waiting for him to kill her, right? That's coming. And then he doesn't. So I was like, oh, yeah, that's different. Okay, that's cool. And honestly, it worked fine. And I liked it because, the whole idea here with her is that she's not, obviously not the same as him, but he sees in her what he sees in himself, and this victim, and and he's like, hey, I don't want to just kill you for no reason. I want to reshape the world and save everyone, right, in his own twisted way.
In the comic, it dove into the darker side of John Dee and how he was very, very like just he killed people and like all of this stuff. Whereas in the show, it's kind of like it's more of like it's a mental disorder, and there's this like trying to rehabilitate him and stuff like that. And I think that the scene with Rosemary in the car and just that whole process for those characters is a just nice back and forth of analyzing that whole concept that then the next episode dives into even deeper, right? Which was the 24/7 issue, because in that it's again, I think because of the medium you could do more, and because of it's on screen you have to augment it slightly for it to be more impactful.
Yeah. I know, like I said, things just read differently, not only 35 years later or 34 years later, but also, on live action television versus still comic book pages.
Make or break Sandman.
No, not at all. No, it was a great scene. But obviously, the big part of this is going to hell. And again, some small changes, right? But I don't know, maybe some significant changes. But
I have to gush here while I still have time, Ryan.
Do it.
I was so ready for this episode. This was the hardest one to keep to your schedule for me. That's my favorite character in Sandman is Lucifer. I thought the casting choice was inspired and amazing. Couldn't wait for this episode, and she was perfect.
Gwendolyn Christie.
Perfect.
Yep.
And the brilliance, whether this is her, the director, it's written in the script, whatever, the brilliant thing that I have to call out that I just was so amazing was the performance, the voice, the movements, the facial expressions, everything she did, she was playing it as if she was playing an angel, as if the scene was taking place in heaven. She was playing it like an angel. And so when you have that performance in the middle of that surrounding, it's like somebody ringing a cowbell in the middle of a symphony. And I'm saying that as a compliment because it's just this dissonance that is so brilliant and works so great for a scene like that. You wouldn't want it in every scene, but in a place like hell, where it's like, this is already weird. What are we going to encounter? It's not a mustache twisting Mephisto or something like that.
Right.
It's somebody who, even the white robe, like forget the bat wings, just look at her minus the wings. It looks like an angel.
Well, Leanne was like, "Oh, I like her cherub like haircut,"
Yes.
and I'm like, "Yeah, right. She's an angel, right? You forget that, or Lucifer, right? I mean,
well, that's the thing. Lucifer is the first, right?
Right. He's an angel, and so the fact that they, both in the comics and then in the show, they stick to that model of
because even in the comic, there's this just air about Lucifer, even though they're surrounded by death and all of this torture and in just pain.
Yeah, he has the long, flowing blonde, golden blonde, locks and everything.
The juxtaposition with him and Mezakine, right? Like just that. It's always. I think if people just forget that just because the Lightbringers, the first Fallen, right, doesn't mean that they weren't an angel at one point. Like that was
right.
like that was an important part of who they are as a character, and it's something that they want to get back to, despite that they'll never get back to it.
When we were watching the show, because Leanna watched all of Lucifer, the TV show, which look, obviously takes
Liberties.
Some names, and that's about it from the comics. But it's a very fun show, right? It has nothing to do with the comics, but it is a fun show. When Mazikeen shows up, she's like, "Oh, is that like the character?" I'm like, "Yeah, this is the same character." She's like, that theme song from the Lucifer show. I was like, he is so good in that show, but would not have been the right choice for this scene. Because he's so over the top and it's a Tom Ellis, right? That's his name. So over the top and slimy but charming. That's not the way Lucifer is presented in this, right? They needed someone very, like Kevin said, very angelic, right? And it was great. Remind me, in the comic, Lucifer doesn't take the challenge, right? Because he fights the demon.
He fights.
Whatever
there's two
that demon was called.
I think the one with the helm and a friend.
Yeah. And Etrigan, I was kind of hoping Etrigan. I wanted to in the background, just something.
But look, my favorite storyline of Sandman is Season of Mists. I already wanted Season of Mist, but now having gotten this appetizer, I need it. I need it, Ryan. I need it at Higgins level. That's how bad I need it.
I Kevin Sharp level of need, like, and I have the key to hell on my back, like,
yeah, I love it. No, there's I like that again. A change that makes sense. Let's make Lucifer the one he actually fights. All right, and that was a good change. That worked. It was a more interesting change. I mean, more Gwendolyn Christie, she was great, right? And they kept it very accurate to the comic. And they didn't make it a big brawl, right? I loved how they visualized
it's a battle of wits,
the idea battle, right? It's a cool, I wish they had. I feel like they needed to go into it a little bit more. I feel like the comic sets it up and maybe explains it a little bit better. The show, they just sort of do it, and you get what's going on. You get how the fight works.
The show, you kind of have these. Okay, we're going to give you simple levels, and then we're going to jump exponentially, and then it's like we're done.
Sure. But they didn't really explain how it worked. But I think people understood it.
Well, watching it the second time, I was just like, okay, I can. For pacing, it's really why they did it that way.
Yeah, I get people. I get people get it. Now,
and it gives us one of the best lines from Patton Oswalt. Dreams don't fucking die.
Yeah. And obviously they're going for the long game here because they didn't skip Nada being there. Sandman's love interest, girlfriend that he has sentenced to hell for reasons that will become much more important as the show goes on. Leanne was like, should we know who that is? And I'm like, no, but she is extremely important to the rest of this.
She's a huge catalyst for the rest of what happens
for everything else that happens in the book. So yeah, I like that they're like, yep, we're not going to put that away for a second season, and if we get to it, we get to it. It's like, no, they're straight introducing her where she shows up in the comics, and I hope they get to it because, she's pretty important.
Well, I liked the transition, character. Right? Like, I liked that glimpse of Dream has different embodiments for different,
and I like how they. I really like how they actually showed that, right? Where so he shows up like the African dream god to her, and then flips back, and we see him in his normal form. So, or in his the form we perceive him in. So, yep, really cool, really cool. Yeah, I mean,
there's one at the door. I loved what is it? What's the name of the demon?
The one that he. Yeah. So I was trying to be like, do they at least have him rhyming? Is he rhyming? Is he at least he's kind of rhyming?
Yes.
I'm like, is he a rhyming demon? Okay, I'll just pretend Etrigan's off camera. He's just around the corner. It's fine. Etrigan's there. He's just around the corner. It's okay. It's totally cool. It's totally cool. Just like in the other episode when D breaks out, I'm like, oh, it's a prison, it's a hospital, it's fucking Arkham. It's fine, guys. You don't have to say it. I know. We know it's Arkham. It's cool. It's cool.
There's one at the door.
I mean, every episode's a 10 out of 10 so far. I have like no notes. Just no notes. It's so good. It's so good and I'm so happy. Yeah, and like I said, I am so happy that I'm doing this journey this way because I look forward to the next episode so much.
Oh, I've already watched it all the way through twice. I haven't watched the bonus episode yet, but I've watched it all.
Oh yeah, so can't wait to get to that. Kevin, you good? You still keeping pace with me? Are you jumping forward?
I think I'm good. Wait, yeah, this is super interesting for me to calculate my watching schedule on the air. But yeah, I have seen 5. So we're
okay.
So
5
now.
Yeah.
So you watch 24/7.
I have seen 5. Yes. So I will be then. The next one will be next. Yes. So I'm pretty much on the schedule. Yeah.
Yep. Cool. Charlie, Lane, any thoughts? You've seen this one? You finished it, right, Lane? We talked about this.
I finished.
You watched them all?
Yeah, and I watched the extra one too. I really, really like the extra 11 or whatever it's going to be, 10 and a half, whatever.
It's 11. Called. They call it 11.
Yeah. It's like a 2-parter, right? Because it's two episodes. Is it longer, or is it just an hour and it's 2 half an hours? I don't even know how they set it up.
It felt a little longer, but I didn't actually look at the runtime.
Maybe they're like 40 minutes each or something like that.
I know they say it's a 2-parter.
Yeah, but it's one episode, so I didn't know how they actually structured that because I haven't even looked at it yet.
It just chops in half and starts the next story.
Yeah. It's just fine. It was fun.
Yeah, it was really, really good. I really liked it. But as far as this episode, I really loved it. I think the only thing was exactly what you said, which is the only question I had was, what were the rules on the game? Because I think the only thing that was a little confusing to me was they take the damage from from being hit by it, but then they heal. So it's just a little weird. That but then on one of them, it felt like it was took a little longer to heal. So
yeah, the whole idea is that basically you have to counter with something, and if you if you have no response, if you have no answer, then you lose. And it does seem like there does seem to be like kind of unwritten rules, like you can't just immediately wrap up. It does feel like you just sort of should end with hope, like you just play your trump card at the very beginning and win every time. But I feel like there's maybe some other unwritten rules to this game where you got to ramp up slowly. But it does. I mean, this is what they do in the comic. I don't know if it's exactly the same. I haven't go back and look, but it's very similar. Where the thing defeats the thing, and now you have to counter with something that can defeat that, and then you just sort of go up. But it gets big very quickly, So
yeah. Well, like I said, it was more just the way they visualize. Like whenever you say the counter, the other person would visualize, or they would visualize the damage of the counter physically.
Yeah.
And that just was a little weird, especially at first, because it felt like Lucifer wasn't taking damage in the first 3 rounds, and then.
Oh, it was it was a little, right? I mean, getting scratched or something. So,
but it felt like it was it almost felt like it was unfair beginning, but I mean, that's also fair. Yeah, it felt a lot like, she was, do you ever watch Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead?
Oh, yeah, incredible.
When they did the tennis match, or.
Yeah. It's very, very similar idea.
Yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, I loved the episode all the way.
It is good. It is good. Yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready for the diner. I'm ready for it.
Oh man.
Get to it next week.
So the,
All right.
the really special episode's going to be not next week, but the following week.
Yeah.
We get to the sound of her wings.
Oh,
Yep.
yes.
Very excited. Very
I
excited.
am going to be watching episode 11, probably twice in a row, or at least I'll watch it and then I'll go back and watch episode 6 again.
Watch before we talk about it. That's the way to do it.
Well, I'm going to
do
watch
know that-
episode 6 a whole bunch before Friday, so
I was just say I do know that Toby got to 7 because he called me at ECC telling me about it, how much he loved it.
Yeah, his I'm sure he'll say more. But he said he loved all the one-off episodes and he likes the anthology elements more. And I'm sure he'll love episode 11 when he gets to it. And that I was like, yeah, that is a big part of Sandman. It's the
Emperor of the United States. It's the Julius Caesar with the was it the dwarf actor playing, just having a discussion in Rome. It's Ramadan. It's I'm trying to think of like it's the 2-part Midsummer Night's Dream episode.
Yeah. It's all the anthology stuff is
like the story.
Some of the best part of
Orpheus, right? Like,
well, yeah, because it just expands out. It just expands out so much of the world.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
But, no, the 4 is really, really well done. And now he has his helm back.
Yeah. It looks great
He
too.
has to go get his whoopee.
I'm excited. One more episode Thursday. Can't wait to get to it. Can't wait. All right, that's it. We are done. Thank you all very much for being on this wonderful, or thank you guys for being on this wonderful podcast. Thank you everyone for listening to this wonderful podcast. Back next week, talk about Sandman episode 5. She-Hulk. If Toby's not on next week, we'll just talk She-Hulk. That's fine. We'll just go on without him. It's very, very good so far. I do want to talk more about it, but we'll wait till next week and go on Toby's full uninterrupted
rant
She-Hulk discussion because he's got a lot to say. Thank you to our top tier Patreon backers: Joe Duff, Kelsey May, Craig Anderson at ClearPathCoaches.com, Jimmy Rivera at the Social Forum Podcast, and Talon Bray. Thank you all, as well as everyone else at Patreon.com/Comic Conspiracy. Head over to ComicConspiracyPodcast.com or Apple Podcasts for all our previous episodes, or wherever you get your podcasts. Can subscribe. Always helps. Get those episodes immediately when they go up. Head over to comicsconspiracy.biz. You can purchase comic books from us directly from the store or our lovely warehouse where we have lots of great products. My boy Kevin has been hauling ass on our back issues. I mean, obviously, this is a massive project. It's going to take forever and ever and ever, but already hundreds and hundreds of back issues up on our website. Hope you like books that start with the letter A, because that's where we're starting. A lot of all new books up there right now. But keep checking that site. Lots of discount stuff, but lots of Marvel, DC back issues are starting to hit our site as well. So just keep checking. It's more current stuff for now. Older stuff will come in later, but we're starting. We're starting a lot of books up there. Comicsconspiracy.biz. Head over to conspiratorBrock.com for Brock's blog and other videos he does on there. Charlie's Doctor Who podcast, The Wanderers in the Fourth Dimension, and Kevin's weekly interview series called Between the Panels at fanbasepress.com. You can see my wife Leanne and all her art at leannehill.com, as well as etsy.com/shop/leannehillart. If you're on Twitter, head over there and follow all of us. Ryan Higgins Ryan. Brock is Brock Sager. Toby is Toby XI. Charlie is Insanity and Chaos. Kevin is at Kevin Sharp. The store is ComicsCon Store. Lane doesn't really use Twitter. I think you're on there, but you don't really do much.
Yeah, no, I don't.
The store is sorry. Also listen to Geekbox. That's our every other nerdy podcast week. I talked last week. Better Call Saul. I talked a few other things. I mostly talked about Better Call Saul finale. And Manga Machinations are good friends to talk about manga and anime. Okay, that's it. Thank you, Lane, for being on. Thank you, Charlie and Kevin, and Brock as always. And thank you for listening, and we'll see you next week.